So, hi everybody. Welcome, Kim Falcon of Love First. I'm so glad to have you here at Live Your Inner Power with my folks.
Thank you so much, Laura, for having me. I'm so excited to be here today and just to spend this time talking through whatever it is we talk through.
Yeah. So, I was so excited to invite you to come in and talk today because just for a little background for everybody, I was introduced to Kim through a mutual friend, and it took us a while to get together. And as soon as we got together, for me, it was kind of a little bit love at first sight. You know, I just like fell in love with your energy and just you and the way that you speak and share. And that was just as a person. And then as a professional, I got a chance to have a session with you, which has just been so beautiful to have experienced and reflect on. And so I got a real sense of, you know, how you do your work and what you do, which was so powerful for me. So I just want to share a little bit about, Kim is a psychic medium and channeler. She's certified and tested in that part of the professional world of doing this work, which is very much a professional world now. I think that, you know, in terms of it's hard because this whole energy and psychic and connecting divinely world, it's a real, I think it's a real tightrope to walk that line of being the professional, but knowing that you're walking into sacred space and into the divine world where, you kind of have a privilege to share information. And so to have the certification and the testing behind you, I think is a really beautiful thing. And then to be able to, bravely step forward and do this work in a world where sometimes it's not always welcome, right? And not everybody's really open to it. So let's talk a little bit about, let's start there. Let's tell a little bit about your journey to doing this work in the world.
Thank you so much. Well, that was such a kind introduction, and I just want you to know, which I've already expressed to you before, but I'm going to do it again, is I felt the same way when we first met and sat down together in such a beautiful space. And just to be in your energy too, it's like very noticeably different. I got to also experience your work professionally as well, which was a very healing process for me, which I'll have to share with you more about at another time. But yes, it's been a very it's a life-changing experience. So and this work is not necessarily tangible, so when I was in the corporate world and I went to graduate school, and all that stuff's very tangible, but this work is not so tangible. So to have aligned myself with different organizations, like Shea Parker's Best American Psychics, where you have to be tested and validated. You have to go through a series of interviews on a personal level. They gauge your, the level of integrity that you're working in. They test you. You have to do multiple test readings that they can ensure that a certain level of accuracy, and that you're not out there telling people, you'll charge $1,000 to remove a spell or something along those lines. So that's been very helpful to me. It adds some credibility and validation to the work, the very sacred work it is that people in this field do, or at least I consider it to be very sacred. I'm also a part of I do some work at the Edgar Casey Association of Research and Enlightenment out in Virginia Beach, and in order to participate in their events, I also have to be tested too. I had to do group readings, and I had to be interviewed. In fact, it was like that interview process, I have to say, was really, it was a little tough. Like, I had no idea I hadn't been interviewed like that since I was in the corporate world. It's like a 4 or 5-on-1 interview. I had to do a series of readings. So, it's those kinds of experiences and affiliating yourself with those types of organization that helps to bring validation to this work. And so, I spent 15 years in the corporate world, in the entertainment industry, no less, which is not a very kind industry. And we're seeing a lot of stuff happening in the media today, starting to unfold around some of the, what I would say is toxicity in that in that environment.
Wow, so true, Kim. Yeah.
And it's very, that it's a very tough place to be, I find. I mean, it's so different than who I am today. I never really felt like I fit in, but nonetheless, it was a job, and there were some very nice aspects about it too. But anyways, I moved into this work. I transitioned into this work full time. This is where this is where my passion lies, and this is a true representation of me now.
Yeah.
In line of work, doing what it is I'm doing is where I'm supposed to be, and it feels it's right for me, and it allows me to be who it is I really am.
I love it. Can you share a little bit about kind of your awakening to your abilities? I feel like, I would imagine everybody's story is different, but will you share a little bit for you about like how you became aware that you had this gift to be able to connect in the way that you do?
Yeah, the other thing too, I don't like to even call it like a gift. I guess everybody has their own talents and stuff, but I like to say it's more just of an awareness. It's an awareness that heightens. Everybody has intuitive abilities, but mine might be a little bit more heightened than other people.
Okay.
But I've spent a lot of time. When you dedicate yourself to honing in on your awareness, then it gets stronger, just like anything else. But what had happened for me, I've actually had a series of 2 awakenings. And step 1 was coming into this awareness of, the psychic mediumship stuff. And then the second one was unfolded for me about a year and a half ago or so, which I'm going to actually be talking more and more about in depth in my own personal work, because I feel it's very important, but it's, part of the ascension process.
Right.
And all awakenings are life changing, but I guess with every one that you have, it kind of goes up a few notches. And a real, real, in all ways, life-changing experience. But I'll get back to your question on when I came into this awareness. I've always had the interest of asking the question, why is this happening? Understanding things at a deeper level. Well, I wouldn't say always. I'd say since my 20s, I was in a relationship where, I thought this was it. This is it. Couldn't be any other way. There's no possible way this could happen.
Yeah.
And in fact, it wasn't it. And that was such a devastating experience for me. I couldn't understand how something I was so certain about could not be.
Wow.
So that put me on the path of asking, there's got to be more to this situation than what happened. I just won't, it just can't be any other way. There's got to be a greater level of understanding. So that put me on this path of asking the questions and being interested in psychics. I turned to psychics to help me understand this. And in that process, I thought, I wish I could help other people like they've helped me. And so I started spending time in meditation with the intention of developing my own intuition. And I really had no idea what that involved. I just thought, oh, wouldn't it be nice to just have some clarity? Let me just work on my own intuition. Well, a lot comes with that. It's not just like a kind of a fun, interesting thing.
Yeah.
There are aspects of it that are fun, but when you go down this path, it's not not fun and games, it's like it's real.
Yeah.
So,
there's such responsibility there, isn't there, to yourself and to
the responsibility, yeah, because when you start doing this work professionally and people start coming to you with real life issues that are very, serious in nature, when you have a client in front of you who wants to know if their significant other is not being faithful. That's a huge level of responsibility. Huge.
Right.
It's like that's not that's nothing to kid around with. That's like somebody's life, and what comes from that session could be life altering. So
Absolutely.
none of that is to be taken lightly.
Mm,
I want to preface that by saying, psychics, we're not infallible, and we're not God, and we're not all knowing.
right.
So, at the same time, I find it very important to preface that in my sessions when somebody asks such a deep, very serious question like that. The
Mm,
best that I can do is give how it is it feels to me energetically, what it is my vision is showing me.
mm,
Does that mean that I'm 100%? No, it could be, but it may not be.
right,
I
right.
can guarantee that. But in any case, also to get back to your question, I spending more and more time in meditation,
Mm,
and started off with 5 minutes, and then it led to 20, and then before I knew it, it's like, oh my gosh, an hour had gone by, and then the reason why an hour had gone by was because I was sitting in such a peaceful place,
mm,
and there was just an outpouring of love that had come through, and
mm,
like this jolt of like joy you never felt before.
mm.
So if that, boy, that's not encouraging to sit in.
No,
Who doesn't want that?
I know. Give me
So
more.
that's what put me down that path. Now my awakening did happen
Mm,
literally overnight. It
yeah.
was like one day I was one way, and the next I started hearing my guides talking to me. I start receiving messages. I start understanding why this girlfriend was having this issue, and how come this one can't get pregnant, and why is this coworker acting like that? All of the answers started coming to me.
Wow. Wow. That's big. That's
That's
big, Kim.
really big. I remember, not to be funny about it, but I remember the same day I'm like in the grocery store, and I'm looking at the tabloids, right? And I'm seeing some of the celebrities on the tabloids, and they start talking to me about why this one's always having love issues, and this one can't be faithful. And it's like, what's going on?
Oh, wow. Wow.
You know,
Wow.
it's
Yeah. A
really,
flood.
yeah, but like the gates had opened up. There was no filter. It was just I was getting everything at once.
Mm,
And that's that's an awakening when you go from one state of being as quickly as overnight to another, and your
right.
whole world and life changes as you knew it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a lot.
So obviously you've grown into managing all of that, figuring out how to have that information come in and have access to it, but not have it disrupt your whole life.
Yeah, well, when that first happened, at first I thought, isn't that interesting? I didn't even realize what was happening. It was just this knowingness, and I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Wow, okay, wow. But then, I started feeling like, okay, forget it. I don't need to know everything. Ignorance is, I don't know about this new path I'm down. It's way too much. I was
Yeah.
happier just not knowing and bottling down, the path. And so at that
Mm,
point, it started feeling like, oh my gosh, is this the way life is going to be? Like, I'm just going to know all this? I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. Like, is that the way I want it to be?
Yeah.
And always what happens when you go through awakening is that you go through an integration process too.
Mhm.
The things, start to integrate and kind of settle into a new way of understanding things that ultimately becomes normal.
Mhm. Yeah.
But it's very uncomfortable process, and it really changes everything within you and without you,
Yeah.
around you. And life all of a sudden is much different than you've ever known. And the thing about awakenings is you can never prepare for them.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Like,
true.
you cannot prepare for them, and actually you're not meant to be prepared for it.
Yeah. Part of the awakening.
It's part of the awakening, and it's a part of going through the process.
Mhm.
You have to go through it. There's no way around it. It's
Right.
not, there's actually, when that happens, it's like you're on full speed. There's no turning back. You can't hit reverse on the car. You can't go to neutral. You're going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Go through it.
Yeah. Have there been times when you wanted to turn around and go back the other way?
Well, when that first happened, yes. I was
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah.
this is too much. I don't want anything to do with this. This is not what I thought.
Yeah.
This, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But then you kind of, you work your way through it. Actually, it was a scary experience for me at first,
Yeah.
because I also started getting messages from loved ones that had passed. And one night I was bombarded by messages that I was alone. When I was single, it was in the middle of the night. It was dark. I couldn't control my thoughts. And that was very scary.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's not to scare other people, because this work is all about love, but it can be a shock to the body. It can be a shock.
Yeah.
Uh, and so it just needs some time to settle in and to integrate. That's really all it's about.
Right.
But now
Right.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't even imagine going back to being not who I am now. And this, the understanding that I have is it's what life is about, is increasing your level of consciousness,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
increasing your level of consciousness
And awareness.
and,
Right.
and awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm. So if somebody is listening and they have, a sense that they have the ability to channel information, or they're getting some information, what suggestion would you make to help them, if they want to work with that, to move forward in a comfortable way, or in a way that is going to support them and the work?
yeah, well, I would by all means encourage it. And because um, it ultimately, anytime that you're on this path, and your awareness is heightening and your consciousness is rising, it ultimately brings in greater joy and peace, even though it's not a comfortable process at times, and can downright just be, it can be scary.
Mhm.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's nothing, you cannot sugarcoat it. It can be scary.
Good.
But
Yeah.
ultimately, you wouldn't want to have it any other way. Like,
Mhm.
once you learn something, you can't unlearn it.
Yeah.
So it's going to bring greater joy and happiness. So just keep that in mind. However, when you start channeling or receiving information, it's working with and understanding energy,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be a shock to the system too. Is working with energy, understanding energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I would definitely suggest that you find yourself a community
Yes.
that understands this
Yeah.
world too, that you can be a part of,
Yeah.
so that you're not out there alone trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because there's energy that feels good and energy that doesn't feel so good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, that's just a part of life. So you got to learn how to navigate your way through that, and what it means, and how to work with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just very helpful to be able to commune with other people who understand that world, that you can share with, that you can learn from.
Yeah.
You find mentors and teachers that can help you along the way. There are classes, there are all kinds of like workshops and classes and meetup groups, and all different ways in which, that's just what's so beautiful about this.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have to be in this world alone, because let's face it, not everybody is going to understand it. A lot of people probably won't.
Right. Right. And if you're in a community, or you're in relationships and environments, or your life so far has only been in environments where people aren't talking about energy, or aren't aware, or aren't necessarily, conscious of themselves and the world in the way that we're talking about, you can feel very alone. And so I couldn't agree with you more, in terms of like, you need a tribe. I think you really need a tribe in order to do this and do it well and live happily in it and joyfully in it. It's going to be heightened 10 times when you're with a group that, you feel like at home with, right? Your family, your soul family.
Yes, yes, because oftentimes what happens in this process too is that, people that are no longer in resonance with who it is you are becoming and evolving, to be, are going to fall away.
Right.
Oftentimes,
Yeah.
you just they won't understand you. They might even be frightened of you.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that happen. I still have that happen where people are afraid when they find out that, this is the work I do.
Right.
And
Right.
it's like, well, they don't understand it.
Right.
And,
Right.
your close friends can start to feel like uncomfortable because they don't know if you're picking up on things around them or what's she getting now.
Yeah.
So that can, when you're just like, I'm just still me. I'm just trying to, have fun and go out and do fun things together like we used to do.
Right. Right. I'm a person too.
I'm a person too.
Right.
It, there's a change in vibration when that happens. When you head down this path and you start to open up spiritually, there's
Mm-hmm.
a change in vibration. So you're emanating a different frequency of energy
Mm-hmm.
that you don't even have to say anything.
Yeah.
But people are tuned to energy,
Yeah.
whether they understand it or not. It's just like, when you walk into a room, somebody comes into your room, you get a feeling, I don't feel comfortable around this person. I don't know what it is that this person not making me feel comfortable. So the same with, how things are going to be with you too. When your frequency and your vibration starts to change, and that's what you're emanating, then the people that once felt comfortable around you may not feel comfortable anymore.
Right.
You like the old vibration of you because that's where they are.
Right.
And
Right.
no longer are you in resonance, so it becomes uncomfortable. What used to feel comfortable, you just can't pinpoint it. It just doesn't feel comfortable anymore. So, you don't want it to be isolating. But a lot of times this path can involve some isolation because that's where growth takes place, right? Your own soul's evolution. You need time to yourself where you're not distracted by other things. But to the extent that you can feel a part of some kind of community or network, that's going to be important. And there are going to be things that happen on this path on an energetic level. If you're channeling, if you're, talking to your spirit guides, that, you may not understand, may feel a little, it always helps, to be able to talk to other people when something uncomfortable happens, or wow, what does this mean? And
Mm-hmm.
somebody else who has experienced that can share. And oh, I see now, I understand.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's so powerful. So, Kim, will you share a little bit about your kind of day-to-day or regular routine of self-care? Because I do think that when you're in this, in this work, right, there's that you have a different kind of self-care. It's important that you have routines that support your ability to like stay clear and open and all that good stuff, right?
Thank you for asking that, Laurel, because people who aren't in this work don't even understand that.
Yeah.
And the care that goes into when you go down this path,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're doing this work professionally, there's a lot of self-care that is needed, because if you're not operating at your optimal level, then you can't support people, in the way that they need support, because you're not supporting yourself in the same way.
Yeah.
That's very, very important. There's a whole spiritual hygiene, energetic hygiene is very important. It's because
Right.
again, we're talking about energy. So when you're working with energy and other people's energy,
Yeah.
you've got to have very good hygiene and
Yes.
daily practices of clearing and cleansing and meditating and all of these things, prayer work that keep you in, a healthy state. Because if you don't, it will affect your health physically.
Absolutely, absolutely. And don't you think that that takes time? It has to be like considered as part of, if you're going to go down this path and you're going to embark on this journey, like you have to accept that that's part of your daily experience and your responsibility to yourself and to others. That it's part of it. It's not a bad thing, but it requires making the effort to change your patterns and your habits that you're in, currently.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the way I start my day and I end it. And sometimes I forget, as I'm off running to the bus stop to go get my daughter to really close out properly, but then I come back later that night and in prayer and meditate, I'll do some work. But is it important to, every day, that's the way I start my day. And it's like, let's just say you have 5 hours in the workday to do this work. You've got to prepare for, an hour of that is going to be this stuff that we're talking about.
Right.
Half hour, but that's knock that time off the schedule, because that's work too.
Yes.
Considered your work too. So every day I'm doing prayer, meditation. I do energy healing work on myself. I clear the space that I work in, and actually I work out of my home office, the whole home. I'll start with the space clearing in my office, and then I'll go into the home and do, sage and prayers and stuff like that, so that the energy is clean. Because you think about, people are usually coming to someone like myself, someone like you, when they're going through challenges. They're not coming to see us when, life is
grand.
They don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
So that is energy. That's, there are thoughts and emotions tied to those situations and scenarios. That's energy. And it would more than likely be of a lower vibration, right? Anytime we're filled with worry and fear and all this other stuff, that would motivate somebody to come see someone like yourself. For me, it's usually a lower vibration. So you got to clear that and raise the vibration again.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that, you work at home like I do. So there's that factor of feeling like, I know it's really important to me that my whole house maintains a certain level of integrity and energetic cleanliness and all of that. And then the space around you, and really, I think a lot of women are very in tune with their environment, but they're not necessarily honoring that. What is happening is that they're aware that things need to change, or they do need to be more organized, or they do need to have things, more clean or more clear, because it's a part of their natural inclination to be more connected, both to themselves and, that the energy that's available for them to do their work or help their family or help loved ones or whatever it is. Right. And I think sometimes we push it aside, like it's not important.
Yes. That's the thing with life is, you can very easily get sucked into life. And then, I've got this to do, that to, forget it, I'm just not going to do it today.
Yeah.
But if you're doing this work professionally, your work will be compromised because you are going to be compromised.
Yeah.
And you can even get sick.
Yeah.
Doing that.
Yeah.
So if you're not, it takes a lot of self-care. If you're not getting the right amount of sleep,
right.
If you're, what it is you're eating, and then you're not clearing and cleansing your own energy field, your space, all of these things,
right.
That will send you down a path of health issues.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really important. I think that, the ultimate, it's kind of like that idea of if you're not paying attention to what your being knows is the right way to take care of yourself, that the physical body will respond and send a clear message that you got to do it differently.
Yes, and I'll share this from personal experience. There's been times where I haven't properly taken care of myself.
Hmm.
And in that way, I mean, I'm pretty diligent about it, but for whatever reasons, I have visitors in town and this and that's going on and this going on, and I didn't take proper care of myself
Yeah.
in that process, and you'll feel depleted,
Yes.
absolutely depleted. Like there's nothing left of you to give.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's like a sponge being wrung out to the very last drop, and then it's like there's nothing left.
Right. Right.
And you will not be in a position by any means to have a session with a client. You just won't be able to do it. You're
Right.
not going to be a clear channel. You won't have the energy to sustain it. You won't be able to, hold the space for that.
Yep.
So all kinds of things come into play when you don't care for yourself energetically, and you might even get to the point where you'll need support from another practitioner to get you up to speed again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You might just feel so weak at that point.
Yeah.
You might need some support. So it's very, very important. The other thing I want to add to that, which is also about energy, is being mindful of how you expend your own life force energy.
Yep.
No, and especially as you talk about women, naturally we give so much of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
but over time, you will see that will create very big imbalances in your relationships and how fulfilling life is when that is out of balance, and what it is you are expending in terms of your own life force energy, if that's not being reciprocated equally back to you. In other words, you're
Right.
giving what it is you are receiving so that there's balance.
Right.
That will throw things off too. So,
Yeah.
as we've talked about, it all comes down to energy, and that's what this work is all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gosh, thank you so much, Kim. I want to, if it's okay with you, what I want to do next is kind of move into a little bit of a different connecting for you and I right now. And that is, if you don't mind, if you could kind of go into your space of, connecting with your guides. And I'd love to ask some questions to help people deal with what's going on in the world today. Because I do feel like, and particularly women, I mean, my audience is more women than men. Certainly I have some men that are very self-aware and doing some consciousness work right now, which is lovely. But it's more women than it is men.
Right.
And I think that, we're dealing with a lot of stuff in the world right now where there's a lot of, women's issues coming up and all of that kind of stuff. And I think we're all susceptible to being affected by that, whether we're aware of it or not. So I would love to just, if you don't mind, if you're okay with it, ask some questions and just have you give us some information about how we can, be aware and take care of ourselves at this time of our human evolution. Right?
Yeah, so absolutely.